And how can I help you?
We're online.
All systems go!
And in your face. You are listening to the golden microphones of the IMC Radio.
Yes,
News,
you are.
Opinions, and your calls.
Yeah, we'll get your calls coming in again soon. It'll happen.
That big picture.
Sometimes if you stop the machine, then you
don't stop the machine.
You have to have some foresight and think about
Fan
what kind
stops,
of effect is
they
that
start
gonna have on
sweating.
air travel.
How important is aviation?
How important is aviation to you? Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is a frisky February 15th, 2017. Welcome to Plain Talk. I'm Max Gross, a.k.a. Howie Marlin. And on the other end of the line, on the secret bat phone, we have Radek Vizikowski. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. Still me here from upstate in New York. Also nice and actually not so cold today, but it's winter. What can I say?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Have you looked at the projections? You guys in the mid country, it's going up to 60. I mean, there's this huge weather, warm weather bubble coming up over the midsection of the U.S., and it's a little freaky because it ain't supposed to be that way. Meanwhile, on the left and right coasts, you got, holy crap, we have dams about to bust, and we've got, it's feast or famine on the West Coast. I have friends that have a ranch out there, and first, almost got burned down, then it almost got mudslided away, and now, the rains won't stop. So, at least the drought is, being dealt with in a big way.
Yeah, definitely. But the bigger drought they have in California.
Yeah. Well, and I got to use my snowblower again. Lucky me. Yeah, we won't get into the details, except here we are in New England in winter, and welcome back, Radek. A couple of things to talk about this week. We're just going to start with Santa Monica, then we'll talk about one of aviation's most well-known aviators, Harrison Ford, and his little faux pas, and then we might talk about Alton Bay, which may be on the menu for discussion today. But let's lead with Santa Monica. We're not quite dead yet.
It all depends what articles you are reading, and apparently they are back to federal court now. NBAA, I believe, it's leading the way, the National Business Aviation Association, and they say, wait a second, it's still not good agreement. They were our tax dollars provided to expand this airport, and now what? Everything is going to end and be turned into a park? That doesn't work. But, I want to take another look outside of just this airport being a gateway airport for that area, because what's going to happen when they close it, where people are going to go? It's almost like Norwood for Boston, because if you want to arrive to Boston, you're not going to go to Boston Logan International unless you are flying some Angel flight or patient airlift flight, because they are going to kill you with their landing fees and all kinds of fees. But at the same time, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flight schools operating on the field. So let's say that one flight school can produce, let's say, 15 pilots a year, right? So we're talking about, 90 pilots that we are not going to have? It's a lot. Besides all the flight instructors, all the support crew, administrative staff, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. And it's not like they, one store is closing and they go across the street from Macy's to Sears and apply for a job. We're talking about flight school.
Yeah. Yeah.
and people live there nearby. So now, if you're going to lose that job, you have to move altogether. It's going to affect a lot of people. So besides 6 flight schools, we also have there 1, 2, 3 FBOs in the same situation. We have all kinds of airplane mechanics operating there. So bottom line, I mean, a lot of businesses being put out of business.
Yep. A lot of businesses out of business. Interesting. So there's the plot thickens. There's more to it than meets the eye. It is interesting. We've been people in that area have been talking about it forever. I had the opportunity to visit that airport a few years ago and was just amazed at the restaurant on site, looking at the history, the manufacturing that went on, the impact on our country, and how lively it was. I literally drove around to 3 flight schools just asking, what it would cost, what I could get into, when they could start. And they were all alive and well. I mean, amply outfitted, lots of little toys to buy, stuff for your kit bag, and people there and ready, and aircraft ready. And to be quite honest with you, I never thought in a million years that something like that would happen to a facility like that.
And also, there is another aspect. There is a larger picture outside even of aviation history. That airport has so much history in it. And unfortunately, our approach here in U.S. is to destroy history.
Yeah,
I'm
no
sorry
kidding.
to say that. I went to college in Poland, university, Jagiellonian University, and I was
How do you
sitting
pronounce
at
that?
Jagiellonian.
Okay.
I was sitting in one of the classrooms in Collegium Maius, I think it was.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, that university is over 600 years old. I am sitting literally in a classroom where Copernicus
Oh, Jesus, really?
was sitting.
Really?
Yes. And I'm thinking now that if that would be happening in U.S., and that building was 100 years old only, we would discover, okay, it's 100 years old, so let's level it off and put a new one.
Yeah.
And in another 100 years, we would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So 30 years ago, instead of having university over 600 years old, all that history, we would have some other building that was built, 50 to 100 years ago. And we are doing the same thing with aviation. And that is that flavor of aviation I always talk about because, again, we cannot convince somebody to invest $120,000 and then get a job for $20,000 a year. That's a good business because it's not. So it's not going to work. So we need to have those pilots who simply love doing it. And they be more than happy to fly for 20, 30, 40,000 because they view it as being in the air and not having to pay to fly, right?
Yep.
So we have to have those kids hanging on the fence, dreaming about flying. But where are they going to go? To LAX? Because if they hang on the fence in LAX,
They get shot.
then Homeland Security is going to come over. And that's how it's going to end.
Oh,
So
God.
if we're going to be systematically destroying those small airports, we're not only destroying history, we are literally destroying aviation. And I want to digress here a little bit to that other famous airport. I don't know if you remember that one. Chicago Meigs
Oh,
Field.
Megs, please. Let's talk about Megs in a second, but before we do that, I just want to share that when my children were 3 and 5 years old, I brought them to the Martha's Vineyard Airport before the new FBO and the new terminal was built. And there the private jets would line up right along the fence. And when they would go to depart, they would just throttle up, beam the fence, then make a 90-degree turn, and just power themselves out the taxiway. If you were lucky enough to be standing at the fence, your hair would get blown back, and if it was a big enough jet, you might want to hold on to the fence. Well, I brought my 2 children, and there was I'm sorry, guys. I can't remember the type of aircraft, but it was large for a personal jet twin, and the pilot waved to us as they went by, and my daughter jumped up and down, and she went with a thumbs up, and he waved, and he goes, and he makes a grasping, he goes, hold on, and so we held on, and he turned, and he did just like a St. Martin's deal, where he throttled up like there was no tomorrow. I actually grabbed my children after about 10 seconds of this, pulled them off the fence down to the ground, and put myself over on top of them because he overdid it in his enthusiasm, and then he taxied away. By the time he turned, we had been back on the fence jumping. And my children to this day talk about that with such extreme glee. And my son is a computer engineer with BAE Systems, and the Black Hawk is his baby. So if you want to see the future, look behind you. Fingers in the fence. There you go. Talk about you want your children to get into engineering? Imbue them with a feeling of passion and excitement like this. This is reality.
Because only then people will start doing what they love.
Yes, sir.
You have to be passionate with what you do. You cannot simply say, okay, I'm senior in high school, so what do I want to do? What options do I have? Okay, pilot, lawyer, doctor, teacher. No, you have to feel for what you will be doing. You have to say, okay, I want to be a pilot, and I am going to do everything possible to do it. Or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be whoever. We need all professions. We need everybody. We need construction workers, and we need people sweeping streets. I mean, there is nothing wrong with either of those. Unfortunately, again, I be doing a lot of critiquing here today. Our society, unfortunately, doesn't have anymore that pride in what they are doing. When I go to a lot of countries and I travel, people, it doesn't matter, if you are sweeping a street, you can still do it professionally, and you can still be proud of what you are doing.
I'm in Milan, and a fella comes by in this bright orange outfit on a little scooter with a vacuum on his back. And he gets off, and he is whistling, and he is dancing because he's got headphones on, and he's vacuuming up debris, detritus, animal droppings, and what have you. And he's looking so sharp. I mean, it's Italy after all. And the scooter was in really good shape. And he was really happy doing what he's doing. And as we walked by, we were dancing with him. And he's dancing, and we're dancing as we're walking by. And it was one of those, did we just dance with a street sweeper? We did, but was that a street sweeper? What the hell was that? And I know you guys who have been over there know Italy, takes a little bit of pride in, the very thing you're talking about. And there are pockets of us who do that. There are. And, every once in a while you'll go by. Here in New England, there's one particular guy who's got a plow on his truck. The fleet of trucks that he has in landscaping, those trucks look good. Those trucks.
But going back to aviation, so
okay, go ahead.
That also applies to aviation. And if we are going to be systematically destroying those small airports, because another thing that what they want to do, in Santa Monica right away, they're going to shorten, I don't know if you read about it.
I did.
They're going to shorten the runway to 3,500 from, I believe, 5,700.
That's correct.
And they say, okay, it's now only smaller airplanes will be able to land. Yeah, that's fine, but they don't realize that smaller airplane on takeoff, when they lose engine, that extra 2,000 feet of runway could save not only people on that airplane, but potentially people on the ground.
Absolutely. No, they're not. Let's hope this is the beginning of the discussion, which brings these subjects up to their town meeting, which brings these issues to educate them, because you're absolutely right. They're making it much less safe, and they're putting their community
You can
at risk.
easily, if they really want to, you can easily NOTAM certain size of airplanes and say, you're not allowed to operate if this, and that, over 12,500 pounds, whatever they want to do,
That would be the logical thing to do. The other thing that, I'm sure that most people haven't considered this, once they close that airport, that eliminates the height restrictions for new building. So the blessing of them having these very small structures in their community, kiss that goodbye. You think that's going to be a park for the price of real estate? Yeah.
No.
Good luck
No.
with that, folks.
No, there is
Stop
absolutely
doing
no
acid.
way.
Quit smoking
And-
that marijuana, you guys. That's crazy talk.
And there's going to be increased traffic in the area. There is going to be, they probably will have park for a year or so, and then slowly, gently, piece by piece, they are going to subsection it to something else.
Oh, they'll keep a park. Yeah. A little kiddie park. But the vast majority of the real estate will succumb to that.
So the same way, what was it, 14 years ago, Chicago Max was destroyed overnight, bulldozed, and guess what? We in aviation community didn't say anything. And what I'm afraid of, that we're going to see the same thing with Santa Monica, and then whatever next, Norwood, Massachusetts. I mean, there are people complaining about noise, and then another airport, and another airport, and then we'll only have large corporate, not corporate, large, commercial jet operations. And where are we going to get those pilots from?
Well,
China?
the way things are going?
That's basically it's going to be. We're going to flight schools in China because...
the way things are going? Yeah. Yep. Well, that's why organizations like the RAF, the Recreational Aviation Foundation, exist. And big shout out to John. John, I'm killing myself trying to remember your last name. Bill Bryan, member of the RAF here where I live, and we may be flying out to a little RAF field, the ultimate recreational aviation field, Alton Bay, which I may talk about in a little bit. But if it's not for those organizations whose primary focus in life is to keep those fields alive. By the way, Radek, before we met at the very beginning of my interest in aviation, I grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I used to hang out. I used to ride my bike to the end of the runway and watch the tail draggers swoop down and grab the banners. And I actually talked some guy into taking me up when I was 13 years old and watching that airport fold. And there's a website, and I can't remember the name of the website now, which shows you all the where all the closed airports are. And it's heartbreaking. And we have to take action. People have to speak up. One of the things that are coming out of the current administration, and we're not talking politics really, we're talking about the result of people becoming aware of the value of their voices and how incredibly important it is for people to speak up. When people turn to me and they express their disappointment or pleasure or being upset, I go, well, get off your ass and get active. I mean, I personally, for those of you that know me here, my little community, being a recovery coach, substance abuse team member, running a drug program, running 2 drug programs, being very, very, very active in my community, and working in the emergency department for urgent care and emergency situations, I chose to get off my ass. And I turn to everyone within the sound of my voice. If you don't like what's going on, do something about it. Speak up.
But
Don't let another Megs happen. If something is happening in your backyard.
Unfortunately, we have a tendency to first think in the short term.
Yes.
And react to catastrophic things. So, something gets blown out.
Yeah.
Then we react to it. something big happens, we react to it. But when thing happens, why do you think they say they are going to close in 10 years? Because a lot of people say, yeah, 10 years is a long time, so what's the big deal? We're going to still be open for 10 years, let's sign all the papers. 10 years goes very quickly. And for some of us, when you look back, we know it. When you're younger, you think, oh God, 10 years, it's a long time. No, it's not. And in 10 years, it's going to be over.
Yep.
So we have to react to it now. So all the distraction that is happening slowly, that's what scares me. I had a lot of predictions 10, 15 years ago. I wish I wrote them and put them in a sealed envelope, because I would be opening those envelopes today and I would be saying, see, I told you so. So what can we do, Howie? What can we do to save Santa Monica?
Okay, first things first. Go to theraf.org. The RAF, theraf.org. Check out Recreational Aviation Foundation. Read about what they're doing to do the very thing that Radek's talking about. You can join, you can donate, you can just go to their meetings, visit the airfields. Visit the airfields. I'm actually right now on that airfield site that I was talking about. Closed airports in the United States, abandoned and little-known airfields. And I happen to pick on southeastern Massachusetts, and there, to my astonishment, is Oak Bluff's Trade Wind Airport. And what kind of made me laugh is it's not closed. It's private. And it's being managed by by a local organization who's not coming to mind. You do need permission to land there, but the point is we are trying desperately to keep it alive. It's a little grass airfield, which is predominantly a dog park, meaning that for the most part people are using it to walk their dogs, and that's understandable. But it's funny because the local people in and around Oak Bluffs were complaining about the airplanes landing on their dog park. It's not a dog park, it's an airport. There's a hangar, and there are several aircraft in the hangar. Father Michael Nagel, he's got a couple aircraft in there. There was a Grobe power glider in there being refurbished, and so it's active. And I remember guys from the RAF last summer actually coming in. A whole flock of them, about a dozen aircraft came down to have a little barbecue on the field. So use it. Use it. There's your answer, Radek. If you don't want a field to close, use it. You've got small, marginalized airfields that most people, yes, I understand, your friends don't hang there, or the biplanes don't give tours from there, or that's not where the fun airplanes are. Which is, I'm going to tell you, that's what's going on around here. That's why nobody...
Definitely we cannot complain about Max not being used, or...
What do you mean we can't complain? I can complain.
Not being used.
Wait a minute, I can complain.
Are used.
I can complain. I have friends in Chicago, and when I went out to Chicago last, we were lamenting. We were not joking about how overnight this guy took bulldozers, and that there were aircraft on the field that had to get special permits to fly off using taxiways. I mean, Jesus.
Can you imagine that you are en route to that airport in the air, and you're coming in for landing, and the airport is closed, and you are low on fuel, or you're down to your reserves.
Yeah.
What would have happened? I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous, but again, it was well-used airport.
Yeah.
So you cannot say that, that was abandoned and that's why it was closed. So what can we do about those airports? Because I'm sure people are flying in and out of Santa Monica, 6 flight schools, definitely. I know they do train students there systematically. So what can we do? I mean, do we go and sit on the runway? I mean, what?
I don't know how successful that would be. I would like our listenership to chime in. If you have an idea, let's get this conversation going. Radek, where can people email you with ideas?
As always, is RADEK, Romeo Alpha Delta Echo Kilo, at EAA.org.
So we'll repeat that again later, but the point is, I want people to feel comfortable in taking action. At the very least, speaking up. One of the nice things I like about these podcasts are that you can listen to them whenever you want, but while you're out and about doing things, also think about the ramifications, and at your leisure, don't forget to respond to the visceral reactions you have. I mean, there's a lot of you guys out there that are holding on to aircraft, and, I know who you are. You've been flying for a while. Your aircraft hasn't seen wax in quite a while. The expenses, and I understand. But look behind you. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to have achieved? What would you like on your tombstone, your epitaph? How would you like to be remembered? Yeah, am I being a little hokey about this? Maybe just a piece, but come on, guys, it's us. We are those people, aren't we? I mean, I have a dear friend, Eddie Hayes. Shout out to Eddie. Lifelong Continental pilot, involved with Fifi. Very motivated to get that aircraft in the air. Motivated to, keep our history alive. The very thing you were talking about, Rad, where so many people just didn't have the wherewithal, the motivation, or the ability to springboard out and do something. This is what Eddie did. But he was a pilot. Well, gee, are you a pilot? Then why can't it be you? So let's just think. Before the field closed in Meigs in Chicago, what were the smoke signals? What were the warning signs? Do you remember that?
Good question. Everybody was talking about this. There was a lot of back and forth with authorities, but the mayor of Chicago decided to do it anyway, and even though it was totally ridiculous, illegal, there were no consequences that I remember of, and it just happened, just like anything else that happens in our lives, in our history, in our nation. Things do happen, we complain, and then life goes on, and there is nothing. We don't learn any lessons from the history. That's the only conclusion I can come to. But speaking of flying in California, our dear friend Harrison Ford.
Oh, nice segue. So, yeah. I am sure every single one of us, when we saw that on the news, sat back with our jaws dropping and going, oh, shit. First of all, I want to see show of hands. How many of you have lined up on final, and just as you straightened out and got yourself configured, it was like, let's go a couple 100 yards off to the right.
Okay, but before we go any further, for all those listeners who did not read about it yet, because it just
I'm sure they know. Go right
or
ahead.
didn't hear about it on news.
They know.
Harrison Ford was coming in for landing, and he landed on a taxiway parallel to runway 20 left. Was John Wayne Airport. And then he flew over Southwest jet and went on the radio, and he asked, what's that airplane supposed to be there?
Hey, what's that airplane doing on my approach? Oh, my God. No. Dude, coming into Boston, I'm going to tell you, some of the taxiways, they look like runways. How? Not.
I mean, let's start from the beginning. I mean, a
Go
lot
ahead.
of runways look like runways. So I was coming into one of the airports on Long Island. I don't remember which, and I was clear to land. I was lined up on final, and they repeated, "You're clear to land on that runway number." And I say, "Yes, I do know it." And they say, "Okay, are you sure you're landing on the right runway?" So it's very easy. I mean, especially,
No,
at airports with many crossing runways. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get confused.
Yeah.
But also, I was flying a lot out of Providence, Rhode Island, and there was a taxiway Bravo, I believe it was, that was parallel to one of the runways. And guess what? That taxiway was a runway before.
Yes.
So it was very easy. Nighttime, yes, you can see taxi edge lights. And also there was a green center line on the taxiway. So that's how
Bastards.
you knew that's a taxiway, not a runway.
Yeah.
But daytime, for somebody who doesn't know the airport.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's very easy to jump to conclusion here and say, hey, I mean, what was he doing? That was crazy. He got confused.
Right. Well, and the awkward thing is that a lot of these older airports that were created during the war had different runways. And they'll turn the runways into taxiways, or, of course, extend them out into parking areas. And you can see the remnants of the runway, which now is part of the administration buildings and all this other stuff. But that can be that'll play havoc with you. So yeah.
Actually,
so what do you think happened?
Because it's the one thing that I didn't. I did some research before the show, but one thing that I definitely failed.
You did
to
some
do
research?
is I always research topics that we were going to talk about. As I always say, we're unscripted, but
Well,
not
we are.
unprepared. So that's the thing. Just like flying, you don't have to be scripted, but you have to be prepared. So I'm curious how the airport looks like. I mean, is that taxiway? Actually, I'm looking here. Okay, so, I'm looking at the aerial photo, and I'm saying,
Yeah, you're saying
There's definite difference, substantial difference between the taxiway and the runway. You have one small one, then you have, okay, let's get the graph, the airport chart. Where is it here? Okay, I'm not going to do it on the air because,
this is
searching here.
SNA,
But
right?
you have two
This
runways.
is SNA, right?
Yes.
All right.
You have very short runway, and you have 20 left, 20 right, and then you have 20. Okay, and you have 2 left, 2 right. So he was coming on 20 left. I don't. To be honest with you, on 20 left, it's and go on a taxiway.
Yeah.
But he is. How old is he, by the way? 76.
You know what his response was?
Yeah.
On Taxiway Charlie. It was a statement, as in his surprise. So it wasn't what? It was sort of a statement of affirmation. So that's the taxiway in front of all of the large hangars, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, but at the same time, going back to Providence, Rhode Island, I mean, we had people landing on the Taxiway Bravo because they got confused. Myself, I lined up with a bridge at some point at night for landing.
Yep.
That was, bridge has identical lighting from the distance to.
Oh yeah,
landing.
yeah. People should be familiar with what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there may have been some other factors. I mean, who knows? He may have to go to the restroom. That urgency will basically, take away from your, thinking, from being focused and
Brad, I'm sure that every single person who's listening to this podcast who has flown solo in an aircraft knows exactly what you're talking about. One of the things about the proficiency program is focused on, and they seem to talk about everything else except the biological needs of humans and what happens under stress or trauma, and define stress and define trauma. Well, I'll define stress for you. Stress is having to go pee. And I'll define trauma for you. Is you about to pee and then starting to pee in your pants and having people who you either want to impress or not embarrass yourself with sitting right next to you. And thank God it didn't go that far for me. But it's not without reason for us to think, things like that are going to cause people to make quick decisions, and some of them not as good as they should be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But see what media outlets are doing now, they all analyze his whole life. They look at, all the accidents that he was involved with. And I'm saying, what does it have to do with what just happened?
Oh, by the way,
when his engine quit.
With the Ryan, no, wait a minute. With the Ryan, he didn't crash that airplane. That engine crashed the airplane. He landed it.
Yes.
He did a great job.
Absolutely.
Let's make one thing perfectly clear. The general public doesn't understand. That engine crashed the airplane, not him.
And then he had an emergency landing with a helicopter, 1999, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing. That was all positive. So now he got confused. Question is, what should they do?
Let him land on the grass. I'm going to tell you right now, he was in a Husky. And I'm going to tell you that Husky's landing roll is about, I don't know, seriously, 100 feet. And I'm not kidding. It's a debate that's about the takeoff as well. I'm good friends with the new Husky and the same guy who's got the floats and the skis and the what. But my point is, we've been lobbying to let our local guys land on the grass adjacent to the primary. But that would have solved everything for him to be able to land on the grass. But yeah, so what do you think?
We can speculate here, which I actually
purely
hate,
speculate. No, play the game. Play the game.
So, but let's have some fun. So, personally, I think it was just pure confusion, as happened to all of us at some point. I think they should go with some kind of there has to be consequences because, as I was always saying, for example, when you have an engineer designing a bridge and he makes or she makes mistake and that bridge is going to collapse, you have to be responsible for it. It doesn't mean it's your fault. People unfortunately connect fault with responsibility together. It's his fault. Not necessarily. It could not be his fault, but you still have to take responsibility. So consequences have to be there. So I think, some kind of license suspension for a period of time would be appropriate, but that's pretty much it.
If that. Yeah,
I think it should because, if you are confused, if you're tired, if you had to pee, that's all fine. Those are all explanations. but they are not excuses.
Good point. Yeah, no, good,
So
good point.
you know, it's maybe you should haven't been flying that particular day. Maybe you didn't go to restroom. Maybe I
Hey.
mean there are a lot of things. It's all any. I was teaching college classes at some point, aviation safety, and basically part of the program was to show my students that everything comes down to human error. Everything. And even though sometimes we have a tendency to say, okay, pilot error, or it wasn't human error, you know, it was just mechanical failure. But mechanical failure is also a human error. It could be, okay, something stressed too much and some part failed. So it's nobody's fault. No, it is somebody's fault because it's either design failure or manufacturing failure. So it's always, you can always drill it down to human error. So you go in, oh, it wasn't his fault because suddenly thunderstorm developed. But then we didn't have full weather briefing.
Bingo.
Maybe we missed that one. So it's always a human error there. And there
like
has to be consequences. So I strong believer, you know, I've been a lot of times in my life, I've been in situations that it wasn't my fault, literally. I mean, but I was responsible for the situation and I was taking responsibility.
I will I absolutely agree with you, 100%. I think one of the blessings of the timing of my getting involved in aviation at this point in my life is that I left bullshit behind me. I take total responsibility. I use WX Brief and talk to a briefer every day when I'm going to go flying. Sometimes I do it if I'm going to go traveling by car. And they're tremendous aids and you know, jovial, fun discussion about options. When during annual, we found that there was camware. You know, different people, you know, said things which didn't sound right to me at all. Like, yeah, you can fly it for a few more months or craziness. And I was like, I don't understand. How can you possibly? You need to be responsible. You need to be on top of it.
Yes.
So anyway, I hear you. But that's what proficiency about. That's the reason why when I learned that what you were doing, I was so for it, because I'm involved in so many things, and my vessel of intelligentsia is very small. I fill it. And in order for me to learn new stuff, I have to pour old stuff out. And long story short, I need to stay sharp. And in staying sharp, I want to teach. And in staying sharp and teaching, I want to be reminded of the areas which need attention. Because I'm not all that in a bag of chips. I am just a dude. And I want to stay on top of my game. And here's why. When somebody with so many hours, who have flown so many aircraft, is so well known to be such an avid aviator, can make a mistake like this. Any of us can.
Anybody can make mistake. Yes, period.
And by being proficient, by keeping your education fresh, stir the pot. It's like, you know, in the Goodfellas or whatever the movie was where you got the guys out there making the tomato sauce. Stir it. Keep stirring it. Don't let it sit. Don't let it get crusty. Don't forget. You know, I was at, oh God, Rad, I'm in the Coast Guard. I fly with the I've been trying or wanting to get flying back. It's been a while since I've served a mission, but I went to D training and the regional training for the Aux Air. And here we got a couple hundred guys in 100 plus in a room, and somebody stands up and just shouts out, "All right, VFR, minimums, Class D." Shout it out. And you had so many people going, you know, we all know it. It's like, stop, right? 1,005 and 2. Yeah, okay, I get it. But the point is, so many people had to stop and think, and then think and think and think. Whereas, if we were staying on top of our game, these things would be on the top of mind. Who knows? The next opportunity, the wind's blowing a little sternly abeam. You're being pushed out. Head down. Head up. There you are. Or though there you think you are. right? This fella happened to be to the port side of the designated runway. His head up. He thought he was where he should be. It looked like a runway. In the moment that he put his head up, I'm just speculating. I mean, that's my guess, to be honest with you. It's my guess. He's turning base to final. Everything's good and normal. He's on the first phase of final. Everything's good and normal. He's being pushed to the port. You know what I mean? Head down.
Let's face it. We all, when it comes to final stages of landing, we all have a tendency to filter out everything else.
Hell yeah.
Because you're already there, so you don't need to navigate. You already know where you're going. So you just concentrate on that landing.
I would hope.
But at the same time, it is a good idea, and we have to train ourselves to actually snap out of it and look all over. And only when you are a flight instructor, that is when I started realizing that not only I have to watch my student, not only I have to make sure that we're going to do good landing, but I have to see everything around. And that's why, getting your CFI license can open your eyes on a lot of things that you normally are not going to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely true.
And second point that I want to bring up here, you cannot learn that stuff from book.
Nope.
And, there are a lot of seminars out there that people go to. Any learning is good. Even if you get a little bit out of it, one sentence, it's good. But I don't think we're really learning a lot there. I'll give you an example. Crosswind landing. For years, I started flying a private license, going around, coming in with crosswinds, and every crosswind landing, I was checking wind direction, then thinking, okay, so it's going to be this aileron, okay, and opposite rudder, and I was trying to apply textbook knowledge to what I was doing. And at some point, I realized, and that was actually when I was training for my CFI, that it doesn't matter what it's in a book. It's whatever it takes. You keep yourself aligned with the center line, and you use rudder to keep airplane straight when you're touching down. And everything else works on its own. It happens itself. It's like walking. You don't think, okay, left foot up, forward, down, right? And then maintain balance, then right foot up, forward, down. You just do it. And we have to apply the same concept to aviation. But at the same time, there are other areas of the same process that do require that thinking. It's navigation, planning, looking around, avoiding our traffic, communication. All those do require thinking, when the first one, the very basic one, you have to apply feel to it.
I'm shrugging my shoulder with affirmation. I'm saying absolutely right. And I can only imagine, that most everyone who's listening to you is nodding with approval. I'm sure there are folks who have alternate views. And I myself would like to encourage our listeners to chime in. Contact Radek, even if you want to talk to me, and please do. Put your question to me, and we'll bring it up in a following broadcast, or to Radek, and send it to Radek so we can discuss it.
It's RADEK, Romeo Alpha Delta Echo Kilo at EAA.org. And let me tell you, I love actually opposite views. I strongly believe that we don't talk to each other
right
enough.
Yeah.
And may sound like politics, but the same thing applies to aviation. We separate ourselves with Facebook pages. Let's keep coming to those meetings. Let's start gathering together. Let's start talking. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with opposite views. There's nothing wrong with I like Coke and you like Pepsi. It doesn't mean that you're stupid because you like Pepsi because I like Coke. No. You have different tastes, and it's perfectly okay.
Hey, listen, forgive me if I'm repeating for those of you that know that during my very elongated primary training, I had 5, count them, 1, 2, 5 different instructors. Yes, it's true. Where I live, we didn't have people sticking around very long, and although the fellow who first started my instruction was also the one to sign me off, in between then, because he's professional and didn't have time, I had other people's filling the bill. You know what it gave me? The perspective of 5 different CFIs. A couple of them were only here for a weekend, but for the vast majority, 3 different aspects of what a good pattern is, what a good process is, and how to enter turn on points and how to enter patterns and all sorts of things. There's different ways of doing it right. There's different ways of doing it correctly. It depends on the situation. And if you have a broader view of those options, when it's your turn to make the decision, if you have those options in your hip pocket, it won't be a question of, gee, what do I do? But, gee, which one of these should I do? Whichever feels better. And that's what I hope will come of all this. By the way, I want to remind people, I have one of those DVDs of instruction where we are shown a bunch of aircraft coming in on a crosswind day. And there's multiple camera angles on these aircraft coming in on the runway. Twins, singles, tail draggers, and trikes, and everything. And it's amazing. It's wonderful watching people literally jump out of their seat in my hangar as we're watching them, laughing with the absurdity of what was that guy doing and what are they thinking, and getting people's input. When you get the visceral reaction, when your blood pressure goes up, when your hands begin to sweat, as you watch these things, this is the learning between us, among us, from each other, which is why the IMC Club, why the VMC Club, and the VMC Club are so critically important. And with the newbies that I have hanging at my hangar, I show this video a lot, and it's great because I always get feelings, and it's fun to listen to them. And then we go up in the air and we do it. Oh, phenomenal.
Okay, could I have a link to that video, please?
I will. In further broadcasts, I will talk to you offline about that. But this may be a good segue for. I have to remember to include this little piece in our broadcast. So if you'll take a breath for a moment, Radek.
Welcome to Plane Talk on WIMC Radio. The views and opinions expressed on Plane Talk are of the host, its guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the IMC Club or IMC Club International.
Okay, well, we're back. Thank you for that little interstitial. Just want to remind people we are legit. Yeah, so, the whole philosophy there of staying current and staying proficient is the whole nature of this podcast. It's the whole reason for being.
And one sentence I want people to learn out there, and the sentence is, in my opinion. So whenever next time you say that the best GPS is, just please before say, in my opinion. And then life would be so much better.
Hey, opinions, we've all got them.
And I believe it's about time to start wrapping it up, Howie. I'm looking at my watch here.
Yeah, we're running close to our allocated time. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Any shout-outs for anybody in your neck of the woods?
Shout-outs.
I'll
Yeah,
take over.
it's-
While you think, I just want to shout out to Bill Bryan again, local representative of the Recreational Aviation Foundation, the RAF. I am a member, and for those of you who go to Sun and Fun, if you go to the fire pit, the RAF fire pit, and you look down at the bricks, you'll see one with my dad's name in it, a way to remember him and to support the RAF organization is to buy a brick at the fire pit. I encourage everybody to come down to Sun and Fun this year. We will be broadcasting again from the rear deck of Sun and Fun Radio, Dave Schalbetter's Sun and Fun Radio program. We won't be on that program, but we'll be on the back deck doing our own thing every day from 1 until 2. That'll be basically 5 days of it. I think I bag out on Sunday.
And also IMC and VMC Club is going to be present in our EAA's, what do they call it, a mobile marketing unit.
Ooh.
It's a big track with number of flight simulators there.
Ooh.
And all kinds of displays. And, one of those small displays will be for IMC and VMC clubs with our brochures there. And I'm also going to be around to answer any of your questions.
Wow, that's exciting. That sounds like I worked with Mike Corbin from Corbin Seats in the motorcycle industry for years, and he would tour all the shows, and he had his tractor trailers with all that groovy stuff in it. Well, that's awesome. I hope I hope we see folks down there, and so you'll be coming in and working the EAA booth, right?
I will be, and I also I'm going to be available from 1 to 2 at our IMC radio.
Well, I'm looking forward to having my master of ceremonies and leader of all things VMC IMC Club, Radek Visikowski, joining me on the back deck. Please come on by and say hi. If you're going to be at the show, stop by. We'd love to talk to you, hear your stories, and who knows, maybe we'll get you on the show. Other than that, you got anybody else you want to say hi to?
And I was going to say, if you are not going to be at the show, you should be.
Well, on behalf of Radek Visikowski, I'm Max Gross, a.k.a. Howie Marlin. This is Plain Talk, and episode 43, titled Charly Taxiway?
Could be. All right. Sounds good to me.
Roger that. Howie out.